right. Welcome back to the Stoic George podcast. I'm really excited to be recording this episode. This is my second kind of open venting episode since moving the podcast to Patreon. And I want to say thank you to all of my patrons who are listening to this podcast. And I know I reflected about this in the last episode, but repetition is part of the journey. I'm so grateful to be moving into this new mode of creating where it's not about getting validation from anybody and everybody through the algorithms, where it's more about I just want to be honest and I just want to express freely. And I'm really grateful that, people are here. There's 15 of you right now. And if 15 people are resonating with this message and what I'm going through and what I'm experiencing and sharing, and if for some reason the words that are spontaneously erupting from me are hitting the spot for all of you, then you are exactly who I want to be talking to. And there is a way in which we are going through something together. Something is happening to us. If the words that I'm saying are hitting some deep part in your being, then I can only assume that something is happening to you too, because something is certainly happening to me, and it has been unfolding technically since the moment I was born, but more intensely in the past year or two, and I keep being surprised that it continues to unfold, and it's dramatic, it's intense, it's a spiritual awakening. It's a realization that the way I lived most of my life thus far was based on models that are not necessarily the truth, and it's the realization that there is another way of being. Wow. Creativity is an overflow. Creativity is an overflow. You don't need to sit down and try to be creative. We are always creating just by speaking, by moving our bodies. Just because you're putting something onto a page, just because you're recording your movements, just because you're recording your voice, just because you're writing it down, that does not make it more inherently creative. As we go out about our days, every movement, everything we wear, every word we speak, these are all forms of creativity. I think I understand why I'm gravitating towards the podcast. Because if you see creativity as an overflow and your conversation, if you like to speak, if you have ideas and you like to talk and you like to tell stories to your friends, you're a writer, you're an artist. You just, the dedication to the medium is overemphasized because of our society models. It's like, we define that to be an artist. You have a medium and you sell your art and you do all this, but we're actually all walking out there overflowing in creativity because we're simply moving, we're speaking, we're sharing our ideas. That's inherently creative. In fact, for me, putting my ideas into a medium, there is a limitation, right? It's coming from this big source behind me, is how I'm envisioning it right now, at least. There's this big source, and even the words coming out of my mouth is a limitation, right? There's this big thing, and it's trying to come out through this narrow passage, my mouth. These words are coming out. This is art. It's giving form to idea. It's giving form to the source of creativity, which is the universe, because we are the universe. So I am channeling messages from the universe because I am inextricably a part of the universe. Where I was going with that is, I've noticed that writing it's not as direct as speaking. Speaking is unfiltered, less filtered, right? It's still funneling through the mouth and through the brain and the intellect and our language and our ability to express. Writing it down, I felt this sensation that it's like it's actually going through a narrower passageway. And I love writing. I do think that's a beautiful form of expression. And as things are shifting for me, I'm actually like, oh yeah, I'm an expressionist. I like to express. And this podcast, it's like a very open, its source is coming in and it can come out in a very wide way. And writing for me can be a little narrower. I found myself, writing in my journal, and it's like, it's not, since I have to put it into written word, it's filtered, it's narrowed. And I was just having this sensation talking to my friend, lover, all friends are lovers, all strangers are lovers, this past week, of like these deep conversations, and realizing like, wow, like this is the raw artistic expression. And to try to write this all down, would it be possible? Perhaps, but it would be a narrowing. And it's important to do this narrowing because we narrow into a form that another human can perceive. So like whatever all this is back here that I'm experiencing, it's being funneled into this microphone. This gives you the ability to have a tangible form with which you can work with these grand, inexpressible, bigger ideas that I'm experiencing in my mind as an embodiment of the universe. It's like the universe through creativity is trying to communicate with each other. And yeah. So the podcast is great because it's a very open flow. It's the creativity just coming directly out. The book, yeah, I'm feeling very, not completely. Something shifted during this holiday week, the week between Christmas and New Year's. I think that what's interesting about a holiday, and especially if you actually get an extended holiday, which I felt this week, it's like the models that society has imprinted on us kind of lift up. You lose your sense of time. Days of the week mean less. They usually, the days of the week, they actually have this like inhibiting effect. They alter how we behave. During a holiday week, the days start to disappear. The time starts to disappear. I don't know if any of you had this experience in the past week. If you were able to take that full kind of break from the ways of being of society, that like it really didn't matter what time it was. It really didn't matter what day it was. You're able to actually sink more just into your intuitive, inherent way of being. That's a beautiful thing that we have holidays built into our society. I don't see anything wrong with it, but the reason it's hard to then go back is because you go from a place of living in freedom to subtly like, oh, like it's Monday is coming up. I have to work. I have to act this way at this time. This is a sensation that I felt, and I think it's very profound. I actually think that like the way of being during that holiday week is like, it's more allowing you to just simply act intuitively. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that the goal of enlightenment, for example, if we take it in Buddhist context, the goal of enlightenment is to be truly present. And what happens when you're truly present is there is no calculating about what you should be doing based on what time it is and based on what day of the week it is. If you're a truly enlightened being, you're going to act intuitively moment by moment. You're going to respond creatively to each moment depending on what is called for in that moment. But as it stands, we live based on we should be acting this certain way because it's this certain day and this certain time. Anyways, because of this sensation, I think during the holiday week, my fear went down, 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 down. My fear decreasing because of my spiritual journey in general is what led me to actually make this courageous step towards moving the podcast to Patreon, towards narrowing down to that smaller community instead of, because I know how to do this thing on social media where I can make money and get sponsorships and get lots of views. I know how to do this. It's an option for me. And so there's fear. There's this feeling that's been arising that like I am awakening. I am seeing how life should be. It should be in this present focused way. I actually have a duty, a purpose now, a divine purpose to share what I'm learning because I believe it's going to help people. And this last week especially, this purpose felt so strong that I was starting to dabble with the idea of just, I was like, how long am I going to hold on to this social media presence that it does not align with this greater purpose anymore? There's a greater purpose, and it's like thinking about recording this podcast, there was a fire. This is my intuitive action. This is my spontaneous creativity. These sponsorships, there's this sense of obligation, like I have to do this. It's the responsible decision. This is how I am a productive member of society. And for many moments these past couple of weeks, I've had this feeling like, oh no, like I can't hold on to this fear forever. I have to go into my purpose, and it doesn't matter what happens because this is more important. This is how I live the truths of what I'm learning. This image has been coming to me lately. I don't know if it came from somewhere. I've been reading a lot of books. I should probably incorporate like reading updates in these episodes. Let me know what you guys think of that idea, because we do have a community now, a trusting community who's supportive of this expression. The image is this self, right? We have this self right here. This is us. This is our true self. But very, very rarely are we living in that true body. More often, we're actually projecting a body in front of us. We're projecting a being in front of us of who we think we should be. To determine who we think we should be, we rely on the models that society has taught us. If there are any other people pleasers out there, we rely on what we think is going to get the approval of the lover in front of us, of the friend in front of us, of the people in front of us. We simply have these ideas in our head of who we think we're supposed to be. So we project that false being in front of us. Meanwhile, the true being back here is being malnourished because we're not acting in accordance with our true selves. So I was getting this distinct sensation that these TikTok sponsorships that I've been doing is the projection of my false self. And we put so much weight on making money in this society. It's like we say you're doing well if you're making enough money, and you're not doing so well if you're not making enough money. And it's like, can I drop that whole model? Can I live relentlessly with no fear and go all in on my true purpose? Can I sink fully into that true being? Can I let go of the projection that I've been putting in front of me for all this time? Now, as I sit here, it's Tuesday. I've been back in the models of society have been re-encroaching upon me. I would say since Sunday evening is when I started to feel that stress, like I need to start acting a certain way again. Now I'm like, oh shit, like maybe that was a little too bold. Like maybe I should do the responsible thing and, keep doing these sponsorships so that I can, keep making this money that's coming in. But this other part of me is like, no, like you have to be true. You have to be true. That's how you find true harmony with the universe. And if you can find true harmony with the universe, it doesn't matter what your life situations are. We put so much weight on the nice apartment, the perfect relationship, and we're so scared to lose it, but it's like, okay, you can give your projection a nice apartment and a nice relationship, but what about your real self back there that's being malnourished? Like, isn't it better to sink into that real self and have a shitty apartment and be totally true, and to live in love and peace and unity, and to escape the split that society creates in us, to escape duality? Wouldn't that be more fulfilling than living lives for the projections of who we think we're supposed to be? It's like we're creating these beautiful lives for these projections in front of us, and then we are hurting. We are hurting because we're creating a split. We're not acting true. So I'm at a crossroads here. I'm like, what do I do? Because it's scary. What happens on a spiritual awakening is you start to see that you don't need to be that projection. You can come back to self. You can live true. But these patterns and these models are so ingrained. For me, I'll speak for myself. They've been continuously ingrained for over 20 years. And into my childhood brain that's very impressionable, these models of society and how I'm supposed to be have been ingrained. So of course there's fear of letting them go. But I'm getting close. I'm getting really close. And I don't know, maybe I'm totally there. There's this, like, to be totally honest, I'm like, no, I'm probably, after I record this podcast, I'm going to like check my email and see if any brand deals came in. And there's definitely an element of like, okay, this could just be where I'm at in the journey. This could be my balance of acting in unconscious patterns, acting according to societal models, but slowly breaking free. You know, maybe it doesn't have to be, oh, I have to do this right now. It could just be like, oh, I'm actually seeing this all unfold, and I can be at peace here. And maybe dealing with this predicament is my true self. So there's some food for thought. Wow. I unfollowed everybody on Instagram. This is an idea I've had for 2 years. And just like the holding on to these TikTok sponsorships, I was holding on to all these Instagram followers for at least 2 years. I've had this idea, this feeling that like, this intuitive feeling that I should unfollow everybody on Instagram simply because it would feel good. It would feel free. It would somehow help me express myself creatively. And right, during this holiday week, I was in such this intuitive place that I was not rejecting my intuition. When my intuition spoke to me, I followed up on it. So I finally just did it. I just let my body do it. Just started unfollowing everyone on Instagram. And it feels amazing. It feels amazing to just let myself do something that I felt like I've wanted to try. And the way I'm holding on to the TikTok sponsorships, because there's a fear of the money running out. There's a fear of my image of myself being, you know, if this Patreon doesn't succeed, like, of being this broke, you know, not successful. It's fear-based. It was the same thing with Instagram. It was this fear that if I unfollow these people, they will be offended. If I unfollow these people, I will lose these connections. If I unfollow people, I'll never be able to find some of these people again. I'll never think of some of these people again. All of these clingings stopped me from taking this action for 2 years, but finally I did it. And I find that whenever I actually act intuitively, even if there's fear, if I just let myself act intuitively, I very soon after realize why that was the right decision. And it's kind of silly that we assume our minds, our intellects know better than our intuition. And we do this all the time. Anytime we're projecting that false being in front of ourselves, we are suppressing our intuition or rationalizing ourselves out of it. So I rationalized myself out of unfollowing everybody on Instagram for years. And just through that simple action, this is just one example, but every time you do that, every time you rationalize yourself out of something you need to do, you're increasing the space between your true self and your projected being that you're putting out into the world because you feel like you need to be this person. That projected being, by the way, that is ego. That's ego. That's who you think you are, who you're presenting yourself to the world as. As that furthers from who you truly are, and who you truly are is, you find that out through meditation. It cannot be explained in words. You're a sensation. You're an entity. You're amorphous. There's no self. There's no resume. There's no pronouns. There's no job. There's no I'm in a relationship. There's no these are my personality traits. It's the sensation of living. We get further and further from that every time it's your intuition. We get further from that as we rationalize out of our intuition. I think that's what causes depression and anxiety, frankly. So making that decision was evidence to me that, I'm gathering pieces of evidence that as I live intuitively, as I break through fear barriers, as I live how I want to live instead of how I think I want to live, I feel more fulfilled. I feel more loving. I feel more whole. And, hopefully I'm going to get there soon with my work. It's every aspect of life you can apply these lessons to. It's like, I actually am starting to think that if you just sink into your true self, you find a harmony with the universe, and things will work out better that way. It's silly to think that we know intuitively what's best for us. We really don't, and we're probably actually messing everything up by constantly suppressing our true nature. This battery is dying. I don't feel the need to force any episodes to be long anymore. I don't feel the need to force anything because of the energy that's coming with this Patreon community. So maybe this is the end, but I'll pop in a new battery and see how I'm feeling. If it is goodbye, Godspeed on your journey. Share everything. Dump it into the comments freely. You don't have to think too hard about the right comment. I want to hear what you're thinking. Let's create a space where we can be completely true, where we can pour into each other. No judgment, just spontaneous creative expression. Love you guys.